So, on this beautiful snowy day in the heart of downtown Toronto, a lot of people are home today. Even if you're not home and you live somewhere else in the world, I think what I'm going to talk about in this episode is something that's very good. So, last couple of episodes were kind of talked about my own personal concepts, my own ideas that I came up with. This one, I'm going to be completely honest, is not something that I came up with. It's something that I saw from someone else, but I thought it would be a very interesting thing to kind of give my opinion on and expand on and kind of share with you. Even if you're not home on this snow day and you just kind of are, doing and living your life all the same, I think this is still some good advice. So it was on a recent podcast I watched with James Clear and Andrew Huberman. James Clear, for those of you who don't know, he wrote the book Atomic Habits. He's the habits guy, basically. He's the one that kind of, made a career off of figuring out people's habits and helping people in that way. And on the podcast, there were a lot of great nuggets and pieces of information, but I think the biggest one that he talked about that kind of resonated with me the most is the one I'm going to be sharing today. It has to do with the content you consume. This is why I connected it, because if you're home on a snow day, you're going to have all this time to consume content or just do nothing because you're home, right? Even if you're not, I'm sure you still do consume content. I'm sure you still scroll. I'm sure you do something along those lines. And basically, the frame that he says is if you are consuming content, the content you consume is what directly impacts your thoughts. So, what you think and the ideas you have is derived from and related to what you're actually consuming, what type of information you're putting into your brain. So, if you're putting a lot of garbage into your brain, a lot of useless things, you are online just for pure entertainment and you're not trying to learn anything, well, the quality of your thoughts are not going to be that good. They're not going to be that high. You're going to be thinking about concepts, video games, whatever other thing, funny videos, whatever things you consumed. But if you want to have higher quality thoughts, you should consume higher quality content, podcasts, informational videos, just interesting things that give you facts and things to learn. I touched upon this yesterday, but really the topic of you're consuming in order to create. It's a different frame of mind when you're talking about consuming content online. I think the last few videos of this show have kind of been based on, online, the internet, kind of how we fall into these bad habits and all that stuff, right? What James Clear talks about is he's a writer and he reads so that he can get inspiration for his writing. And this is an interesting thing. And I'm like, huh, man. So it's like, yeah, I make a podcast. A lot of the ideas that I talk about are based off of things that I've seen in other podcasts or other videos or even read in books. Even when I reference the Bible, that's still referencing another book and another text where my thoughts are coming from. So then I was able to make a few original ideas based off of things. And even in an episode like today where I'm talking about an idea from someone else, it's still just good content. It's still good stuff. So it was kind of a reframe for me, and I've been like thinking about it. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. You are what you consume, right? And that's kind of the gist of it, the main point that he's trying to make. If you want to be a writer, you should read. You should consume maybe more intellectual pieces, expand your vocabulary, learn about literature and all that stuff, and get inspiration for you to write what you're trying to write. Whether it's online writing or like you actually want to write a book, be an official writer. If you want to make videos, whether long form podcasts like these ones or edited content or even short form just shorts and or Instagram reels, TikToks, you have to, watch content that kind of teaches you how to optimize that or gives you inspiration for ideas to talk about in your videos. Even if you're in business or you're in marketing and I don't know, you're making ads, you're writing copy, you're designing things, you're helping other people, you're managing social media accounts, whatever you're doing in a business, you need to have ideas as well. You need to get your ideas from somewhere. So consuming other business content, marketing content, or follow this is what is recommended if you're making content of any kind, whether it's like business or you're running a business, or you're making ads, you're writing, or you're making videos, you should follow or subscribe to the people that are kind of in your space already successful people in the area that you're trying to be successful in. And that's where you can find the inspiration, where you can learn, some strategies you should take in your approach to improving in whatever you're working on. And that's kind of the gist of what James Clear is talking about. It's like you're improving your own thing because you're taking ideas from other people and making them kind of, suit what you're doing. And it's a good thing. It's much more useful because you're increasing the chance that you're actually going to make it online, you're going to make some money or whatever it is by creating content rather than just being a consumer. So to look at it like, okay, you're not just consuming for entertainment. Maybe there's a section you consume for entertainment, but you should be optimizing to consume in order to create. Consume things that would impact what you're trying to create online, or not even online. It might even be offline, right? Anywhere. You're trying to create something, you're trying to make something, you're trying to write something, you're making something special, you want to make something unique. It's very hard to derive off of just your own ideas, especially, for me. I'm making an episode every single day. I have to find a topic, an idea to talk about, and something that is actually genuinely interesting every single day. Sometimes that gets a little bit difficult, right? It gets a little bit difficult because I'm over here thinking, what am I going to talk about? So, where I find these ideas is I kind of, derive off of other people's content, consume their content, and take those ideas and implement it in my own creation, which is a beautiful thing. And it just, I don't know, it fills me up. It makes me feel like I'm contributing something decent, even if only 10 people watch this video. But it's much more impactful if you're kind of on the climb, you're growing, and you're seeing bigger progress. You're never going to make it just by yourself. Like, always having other ideas, other thoughts, other points of views, and comparing it to your own is something really, really good. And that's what I'd recommend. That's why this concept is something that I am talking about. That's something I'm sharing. This idea that if you're going to be creating something, you should first consume, but consume in a way that impacts what you're creating in a positive way, so that you can improve what you're creating, the quality of what you're creating, and get ideas from the content that you're consuming, instead of just consuming content just for entertainment, which I guess, you can consume for entertainment. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but the problem with that is that there's no substance to things. You're consuming things for fun without substance, and then that's, it goes back into, oh, that's how you fall into 3 hours of scrolling, playing video games, the YouTube rabbit hole. Whereas if you're going to spend a lot of time online, might as well watch a 3-hour podcast instead of scrolling for 3 hours. I feel like a 3-hour podcast is way more better. It's better for you. It'll make you feel better. You actually feel like you learned something. You feel like you actually took some information and it was something more useful to you, rather than just the scrolling where then you finish and you finally manage to put the phone down and you're just drained. So we all are going through these things, and optimizing for consuming content that will help in the creations that you're making. Again, it doesn't have to be online. That's a part of it. It can even be in what you're doing as a business. If you're doing an athletic pursuit, consuming more content based on the sport you're actually pursuing, or based on like just information or tactics and just mental training, stuff like that, is also beneficial to your journey. More beneficial than just pure brain dead entertainment. So in every different aspect of life, you can consume content to help you create, right? For me also, when I talk about God, when I talk about faith, I'm not just going to be talking out of my butt, right? Obviously not, because it's a super sensitive and important that I get right topic. Where, what do I get my information from? I get my information from the Bible, the biblical text, what I read, what I'm actually experiencing, the words and the scriptures, and also from other content creators that are in that Christian podcasting type of space, that kind of expand on ideas and give me things to think about, so that I can come to the table with good faith-based content as well. That's also what I'm trying to do. I'm not just trying to be here to just mess around, right? Just do stupid things, right? I'm trying to get a little bit deeper on things. So the point is, even in that aspect, I'm consuming things to help me be a better creator. So that's what the mindset and the frame of it is. Like for James Clear, he said that like reading, he doesn't usually get bored of reading, but he's only reading for like 20, like he's reading for a short amount of time, because then in the book that he's reading he gets an inspiration, so then he just puts the book down and starts his writing. So the reading is not the thing he's doing. The reading is the primer. It's the thing that is preparing him and giving him ideas and inspiration for what he is going to be doing. So if you look at what you consume online in the same way, the content you create will only get better. The content you push online, whether it's online or it's offline or even on your own other pursuits that have nothing to do with with online content creation, you'll find that you'll only do better. It will only be much more improved because you're putting the right stuff in your mind instead of continuing to push, garbage, substanceless things. That's not even a word, but it's all good. Things without substance into your brain. So to kind of end off this little topic, I'm not saying necessarily that you should just forget about entertainment. Sometimes you gotta turn your brain off. Sometimes we're super stressed in life, and sometimes it's necessary to just watch something just for the fun of it, just for the sake of watching it. I understand, but you have to regulate it. You have to understand when you should be just chilling, or when it's more important for you to be consuming better content. At any point, you should be trying to create things. Creating things is much more fulfilling and much more purposeful and meaningful than, even if you don't get a lot of views. Creating things is gives you much more purpose than just continually consuming. And then you consume in order to create. You change that mindset. You change the philosophy of what you watch online to facilitate and impact and improve what you're creating, rather than to just solely be a thing for pure mindless entertainment, which I guess it's serving for. I'm not saying it's necessarily bad, but you got to be careful with it, because that's why we all have phone addictions. That's why our screen times are so high. Every single one of us, we waste years of our lives just mindlessly scrolling on our phones because we fall into that trap. Whereas if you're more conscious about it, you have the mindset that, okay, what I watch today is going to impact what I do and how I think. So let's watch something that has more substance, that is better for you than just pure mindless garbage. So that's what I would say. It's just a mindset thing. And if you can separate the two, separate the two. Maybe have a time to consume good content. You use that in your creations, whatever the creation is, and you have time to just wind down, just pure entertainment. You're not really trying to think about anything else. If you can separate the two, that's good. But once you start to see that they're bleeding within each other, and then, the problem with it is the dopamine, it's addicting, right? That's the whole issue when you are saying, oh, I'm going to watch this just for fun. Your brain doesn't want the fun to end. So if you can separate the two, great. But if you can't, focus on consuming better content. The better content you consume, the more you'll improve, the more you'll do better every day. So that is the main point of this video, talking about this idea from James Clear and how it makes sense, how consuming to create is way better than just consuming just to be a consumer. So that kind of puts a wrap on it. I don't think I have anything else to talk about today. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. If you made it this far, subscribe on YouTube and follow on Spotify. Like the video and let me know what your thoughts were. I appreciate your support. I appreciate if you're here still watching it. So content, right? Hopefully this video served as one of those pieces of better content for you. That's what I was trying to do today. Hopefully it served as a better piece of content for you going forward for the rest of your day, for the rest of your week. And, continue to facilitate that growth. Continue to pursue bigger things and pursue things and glorify God in all that you do, and pursue greatness and the extraordinary every day, because there's not going to be anything more fulfilling in your life than that. So optimize the content for better consumption, for better habits, and you'll find that it is possible for you to take control of your time on your phone, of your time online, rather than it controlling you.